So I had a dream last night, and there was familiar faces in the dream, but it's like the one when I was working with, it was almost like in a not a trench, but like in a lower place of foundation. It was like if it was a building that was being constructed, and it was completely poured and formed. All the form boards had been stripped off, but there was still like, it was unfinished, so there's dirt all around, and we were kind of like in more or less measuring for plumbing, electrical, that kind of stuff, and so it was the ground wasn't really leveled per se as a finish. It was still in the place of understructure being put in before the completion of the project, and this was big. This wasn't just, if this was a house, this would be a house of a magnitude of mansion proportion. It was hotelish in size, the foundation, many levels, many tiers.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that big.
And it was big, and in the dream, the property was established as a desired place. I could tell that the frequency of the dream told me that it was like everyone is now building. It felt like everyone was building with a hurry. Like it felt like this land had now been opened up, and now, but there was a difference between measure and quality is what the dream ended up to be. But I didn't feel it at the beginning stages of my dream. In the beginning stages, I felt kind of isolated, and I felt the weight of having really minimal. I felt like, I'm down to my last bit of money, and how do I position myself for my next move? Because I felt almost like I felt a little trapped in where I was going, man. And I didn't even feel like I had a job with this specific build. It felt like I was there assisting another individual who
like you were eyes only on it, but not necessarily.
I was there as more of like seeing what did I need to see from this individual, and they were there to encourage me. Of just like I was there helping, and so it felt like I wasn't even getting paid for what I was doing. It was more or less I was just there to say, yeah, I need some work. Is there any work around here, kind of a thing that I could assist with? But I didn't even know really what I fit with it. The individual that I was helping that was down lower in this not trench, but yet more of a lower area. And again, I'm speaking it from the spiritual connotation of above and below, because most of the workers were up above. And so we were down below, and this individual was very familiar to me because I've seen the frequency was of a female, but this was now a male, but I couldn't, it was like, it was kind of throwing me in the dream, because I'm going, wait a minute, this guy should be female because I recognize the frequency. And yet he was asking me to assist. Like he was pulling a tape, and he was measuring from the corner of a foundation down into where he had to get to, and I couldn't hear him at first, and he was saying put it to there, and I was like, I just couldn't hear him, so he had to come up and tell me he said put it to that, because that's the measurement that I need. And so it felt like I was almost a little handicapped in what was going on in that position. I felt really ill-equipped to be working the magnitude of what they were doing. And I was kind of just questioning that. And then the individual that was standing up above, he was definitely, if not the supervisor, he was definitely the general on the job. He was definitely the general contractor. And I think he felt my frequency of what was transacting, of where I was. And he told me, he said, and it was coded, I could tell, because yes, it was about the building of that this area had opened up, and his concern was many people come in and they just build without really being builders. Yet it narrowed it down to say, he said, listen to me, he said, the bridge had been built for many to cross over, but few know how to build. He said that, and he put it this way, he says, they can read the print, he says, but very few know how to build. and that hit me. It hit me in the dream that wow, that something had been constructed and opened up the grounds for the potential, but and I felt it was like the language of builders, where there's the ones that are just there for the sake of money. They put up dingers. It's just a lack of quality. It's usually just quick works of getting much up, but it's really it's lacking in many aspects as far as the potential of what it could be. So
like a lesser subdivision versus quality that is put in.
The potential there is for quality to be put in, but they don't come, like something had opened up, but again, the language very spiritual. The bridge had been made, and so there it is. Now it's opened up, and here we have many people that are showing up and just building, but I was told very few can build. There's many that can read it, but there's very few that can build.
So in other words, from what I'm taking away from this is that connecting with the heart is the most critical portion of building. That it can't be built through the head, it must be built through the heart. At least that's what I'm feeling as you're saying it.
Okay. Well, the essence of what we're doing, and I'm speaking from the place of excavating through the pattern and the template of intention, because that's exactly what it is. The difference is that we know that the rendering down produces humility.
Right.
We know that Mother is, if there is a stand, then someone's had to come through a crawl to a walk to be in the stand. So there's a difference between the essence of potential versus showing up and just interpreting one's own outcome. There is an intention. It goes right to source. There is an outcome to the intention that is purpose. Most are distant from that, based off of, if they haven't produced a measure of humility, then they will never see the meek power of what it takes to build. And this is the difference, that this whole language and the time in that we've spent, we've seen that the Spirit has shown us that the blueprints are crucial, the pattern is crucial, the intention is crucial. It's the essence of intention. Therefore, you have to become that essence in this lower construct. The bridge has been made, but very few have spent the time in and really extracting out the intention, the essence of humility that produces the meek measure, as that is the intention.
Right. So the difference between head and heart again.
The difference between head and the heart. Yeah, this fills up the heart.
Which then allows for the inner man to stand.
Which allows for the inner man to stand, right.
Which is the full activation of the Vav.
Right.
I'm also connecting this dream to your... It's interesting because I instantly was thinking about your dream about the bridge that was being built.
Right.
That you were in the place where we were just waiting for the bridge to be built, and then the person was showing you the lumber behind the door.
Right.
Here, come take a look. Do you see all of this?
Yeah.
And you didn't want to build in that dream. You're like, no, I want to cross over the bridge.
Well, again, dreams are tricky things when you're in them, because you're seeing what you need to see, and it's
right. But I linked it.
Yeah.
I linked it.
Yeah, the bridge had been built. So now, in that dream, the bridge wasn't completed. We wanted to cross back over to go up it to the mountain, but the bottom part wasn't completed, and so we had to park the car and wait there. But they were working right there, and it wasn't like a bridge. It was like a 45-degree ramp, and then you were in the mountains, kind of a thing. It was like dream stuff, but it wasn't finished. It was almost finished, but it wasn't completed, and we had to go visit the town, and that's where the individual. I was walking around, and he was asking me, "Did you find a job yet?" And it was. It was not what I was looking for, especially in this small town. I was wanted to take the bridge back up, but yeah, and that's when I was nudged to open the two big doors that was housing very, very old lumber. You could tell that it was recycled, or timbers that have definitely come off something. But I was like, whoa.
So reclaimed lumber.
Yeah, reclaimed lumber. It was reclaimed building material that was made to build something. And he says, have you looked behind that? I says, no. And when I opened the doors, he says, does that interest you? And I was like, honestly, in the dream, I was like, no, I just want to go. But so when I woke up, so it all tethers and it all ties about the building process, this laborious work, the tedious work of really constructing intention. If you don't vibrate to the frequency and the essence of intention, then how can you create the likenness of that? It's impossible. You're out of key, you're out of sync, you're out of vibration. And so we can only be calibrated through the constant visitation of the calibrated language. So this is what calibrates us. This is the DNA sequencing that calibrates the body for the intention of building the purposed intention. It's a redundant language, and it's like loop-de-looped. But
so the way I'm picturing it in my mind is that what I'm getting is that there's many that are going to be attempting to build. They can read the codes. They're in that place, but the difference would be a shoddy, lesser value house per se in a subdivision of a quick build and a quick turnkey versus what would happen if you really took it and applied it and made like a Solomon's temple. All metaphorically speaking, of course, but comparing a home in a subdivision of lesser quality to the Temple of Solomon.
Yeah.
That's at least what I see in my mind as you're talking about this. So you can build a structure with what they're doing, but then the intent, because in Solomon's temple we had all the gold, you had all of the precious metals, which was all frequency oriented.
Yeah, it's an easy analogy. It's very basic in its breakdown, but again, it's just there's a difference between seeing. Again, what you just said is really yes. It's yes and and, because we're all able to grasp pictures. We're all able to take metaphoric language and then draw a line from and see the potential of a lesser and a greater. The difference is becoming the greater in the lesser. It's becoming it. It's the realization that the picture is speaking for the purpose of becoming that picture.
Right, which then would be vision, like us being able to have something as a vision to direct our ship towards, if I use that analogy or metaphor. As we're sailing in the waters of chaos, we have to have a direction in which to go.
Well, there's very few people that can extract out, like, take a picture, draw it, and there's the temple. Yes, and there's many huts around the temple, or subdivisions that have very high level houses, and then doesn't take, you don't have to go very far to see a subdivision that is of lesser quality. But again, it's such a looped language of, at least in the dream, because you can put your fingers on it. Most people can put their fingers on it, but they can't fully grasp the weight of responsibility, because unless it has produced the measure within, you have no business building outwardly.
Right.
And that's what I'm feeling, is like you have to be able to build yourself first.
So the inside work before you can do the external outside.
Well, again, we're all building partially. I mean, yes, it's yes and and. I'm just trying to keep in flow of spirit, just to be able to truly define the intention is extremely, you have to live in the essence of the definition to really speak from the definition for the definition's purpose of intention. And that's the difference. Most people extract out and then they remove themselves from living in the essence of that intention. The difficult thing is always living in the essence. and that's how we properly build. It is completely guarded, completely surrounded. You're completely girded up in, and I feel the moments when it's there. The difficulty is the world quickly encroaches to really make it difficult to live in that essence. It's fleeting. It's in the mornings, and when you're in that space, but quickly, how the day approaches, it just kind of, you got to do this and you got to do that, and so it's difficult. And I do anticipate that frequency is going to change. I do anticipate that there will be an envelope that very few people will be able to enter continually to speak the revelation and from the essence of the intention. Because this is the only way. I think that there are many tent pegs in the kingdom. I think that what's being built right now is the potential of kingdom. The covering comes when all the tent pegs are stretched out and they have made the way. It's the wilderness walk, but they've done this journey in the wilderness. They've become a living valve in the earth. They've now stretched themselves out as one through the process of 44. This is the journey of the anointed family, right? Through the 44, through the twin pairs of 22, they become one, right?
Yeah.
And so I see this language of now they are stretched out in the world. They've made a very narrow way broad now for others, and they can enter in through what they have built.